Mass News on Fox 6.
We begin tonight with a new story. The MassDOT holding a public information meeting on the reconstruction of one of the busiest intersections in Springfield, the X, located in Forest Park. Thanks for joining us for Western Mass News at 10 on this Wednesday. I'm Amanda Martin-Ryan. Western Mass News reporter Addie Patterson joins us live in studio with more after stopping by tonight's discussion to learn more. Addie.
Amanda, tonight's discussion was an opportunity for local residents to bring their questions and concerns about the ongoing project directly to officials.
It's a large and complex project, so the better everybody knows will make things work better in the long run.
On Wednesday, a public information meeting was held in Springfield discussing the status of the reconstruction of the X intersection. The meeting offering residents the opportunity to learn more about the project and have their questions answered by DPW and MassDOT officials. Western Mass News spoke with Springfield DPW Director Chris Signoli ahead of Wednesday's discussion. He explains this construction project is necessary for that section of the city.
It has virtually no bike accommodations. The pedestrian accommodations and crossings are severely antiquated and dangerous, and there's certain crosswalks that have no controls whatsoever.
Signoli tells Western Mass News even though crews are hard at work, the reconstruction project is expected to go on for a few years until completion.
It's probably going to be 3+ years. There is so much utility work, so much below ground work before somebody's going to see really start roadway activities.
We also spoke with local residents at Wednesday's meeting about their thoughts on the reconstruction. They tell Western Mass News they typically avoid the X intersection when possible due to traffic, especially with the ongoing construction.
In general, I don't use Sumner after like 3 o'clock or even 2:30. And when I go home, I find alternate routes through different towns or different pathways through Springfield.
Residents also telling us what outcome they want to see come from the project.
I hope it brings a lot more calm traffic, more of a flow, and maybe helps cut down maybe on some of the side street cut-throughs that people do to avoid the X.
And DPW Director Chris Signoli also tells us folks can sign up to receive updates and alerts about the construction project. For a link to that, you can head on over to our website, westernmassnews.com. Just click on the blue As Seen on TV button. For now, reporting live in studio, Addie Patterson, Western Mass News.
All right, Addie, thank you for that live report.